Yes, people. It's Jacob on the one up top. Before you do it, whatever you're doing, whether you're watching it, whatever, like, share, subscribe, do all of that. I'm going to get all the normal stuff out of the way. Done. Right. Only one thing on my mind for the last week, including international break. The biggest game for me as a Spurs fan, home or away, is North London derby. Forget Chelsea, forget West Ham. I don't care if we've got Real Madrid coming up. This is the game for me. This is the only game that gets me daydreaming at work. This is the only game that will cause me not to speak or something like that in a period of a day. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's that game, innit? Not even being biased. It's the most entertaining derby. When I say that, people start going, "Oh, Liverpool, Man United." Liverpool, Man United is the biggest derby. Don't get it twisted. Like, they're the biggest clubs in the country. Won the most. Not too far from each other. That's the most important rivalry in football. But in terms of an entertaining game, I don't think that no one can chat to me about the North London derby. There's always something on it. There's always, we've had the Sol Campbells, we've had Henry running through the team, we've had Harry Kane who scores every game. We've had the 3-2 at the Emirates. I could go on for days, man. Ever since I was young and started supporting Tottenham, that was the game. And my uncles sort of thing that got me into football. One of them supported Liverpool, one of them supported Arsenal. So it was like when I supported Tottenham and he supported Arsenal, it was horrible. And I still get banter off him now, even as a grown man. But again, there's a few talking points. There's always something on the game. There's always been. Can we stop Tottenham getting in the top four? Arsenal need the points to win the league. Do you get what I'm saying? There's always something. Now, when you look at the game this week, for instance, if someone said to me, what's riding on it? You can see Arsenal, are 4 points clear of Man City. Man City got a tricky game tonight against Newcastle. But, if Man City come through that with a victory, pressure's on Arsenal with them a point behind. So not only are Tottenham going to want to get the bragging rights to North London for the day at least, they want to stop them from winning the league. And I'm not going to sit there and say we win the league, but if we win the game, we go 5 points behind them. All of a sudden, the top sort of 6, 7, 8 teams become condensed. And I'm not sitting there saying Tottenham are going to win the league. We've got so many injuries, we haven't really got the players to do that, but apparently we've had such a bad start. But if we could go 4 points behind Arsenal with victory, all of a sudden it's like, there's a rainbow that comes out of the woodwork. For me, I've always said if you want to finish in the Champions League spots, let's say, and that's your aim, you've got to try and aim for the title. Because if you aim for the title and fall short, you finish in the top four, didn't you? Or the top five, what it is now. When I'm looking at Arsenal, so to speak, so if we go to the opposition first, you're looking at, you can see smoke coming out of my mouth, man. This house is cold. I need to warm it up. First and foremost, you got to look at the fact that defensively, they're a unit, aren't they? They don't really concede goals. When they go 1-0 up, it's pretty much game over. Depending on the opposition, really. They had a little blip at Sunderland, but Sunderland are a good side, to be fair. But apart from that, when they've took the lead or if they've gone 2-0 up, if you're watching the game, there's no point unless you're an Arsenal fan, because they're going to win it without conceding. So they got a good foundation. I've always been a believer that you can have all the goals in the world, but if your defence isn't on job, what's the point? And vice versa, really. If your defence is on job but you ain't getting goals, cool. Now, they haven't got a striker that's banging 30 goals a season. They haven't got a winger that's doing the same like the Salahs and the Haalands and all that. But they're all chipping in with goals, and more importantly, their defenders are. Now, if you look at the defender that they've got that scores the most goals, Gabriel, he's out, which probably does the damage to a lot of people's dream teams. But, he's, for me, him being out, obviously it's a concern for Arsenal defensive-wise, but for me, it's a breath of fresh air going the other way, because in the last couple of North London derbies, it's been 1-0 or 2-0. Gabriel scored or assisted from a header, from a corner. And it's a weapon of Arsenal's. You know, people will sit there and call them Stoke and all that stuff, but I've always looked at it and thought, if you want to win leagues or you want to win trophies, you've got to have a plan B. You know, if you're playing all the nice football and it's not working, what's the problem with the fact that you go and win a game from a header from a corner? Like, you know, there's Tottenham fans that might cuss it, but all of a sudden we've started doing it. And, you know, if we didn't have set pieces on lock against Everton, it's a 0-0. You know, we've had quite a few games where we've scored from set pieces and crosses. It's a part of the game, man. You know, it's the ugly game. I don't really like it, if I'm honest. Like, I wouldn't want it to get to the point where I get used to Tottenham throwing in long balls and all that stuff. It's not something that I like seeing, but if we won tomorrow 1-0 and it was a throw in from, you know, Pedro Porro flick on goal, I don't care. I don't care if it's a throw in and it's an own goal. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? So, respect where it's due to Arsenal, but it's not going to go as far as saying that I like them. But again, you know, there's lots of things riding on the game. You know, Saka, I wouldn't be surprised if we wake up in the morning and Saka's deal's been announced, you know, just to get everybody gassed, get the crowd up. You got Michael Oliver, who's the ref. You know, he's done us dirty, but if Man City win tonight, he's going to do Arsenal dirty. We just know that. I was talking to my best friend and I kind of said, like, if Man City win today, we're going to get a penalty that shouldn't have, or you're going to get a player sent off that shouldn't have. Just, we all know Michael Oliver's on the payroll at Man City. We just know that. So, you know, it's mad, but I was saying that realistically, the refereeing display tomorrow all hinges on the Man City result later. It's as simple as that. You know, people ain't going to fool it with me. VAR's been brought in just simply because they can control the game better. And people think it's for the good of the public. It's not. It's for the good of the powers up top. Let me tell you that. But yeah, going back to the North London derby and Arsenal, you know, I always respect the opposition first. No, Gyökeres is big news. You know, they're saying 50-50. The likelihood is Gyökeres will probably be on the bench. And if Arsenal are losing 2-0 with 20 minutes to go, he'll be brought on. If they're winning 2-0 with 20 minutes to go, he'll stay on the bench. I think they might do the same with like the Odegaards, the Maduekes that are all in training, just to maybe get Thomas Frank thinking. But, you know, if I'm going to look at my club now, Tottenham, first thing I would be looking at to do is to, you know, Arsenal are strong. They've got a very strong squad. You know, they've got cover in each position. But the fact of the matter is, Arsenal are going to have to go into tomorrow's game with a new partnership because Gabriel has been solid throughout the whole season. So it's been Gabriel playing with other people. You had Saliba come out for a couple of weeks, I believe. Mosquera came in. Hincapie's had to play in left back, which he's more than capable of doing. So now it gets to the point where all of a sudden it's a new partnership and who's going to lead the line? Because Saliba is a very good defender. He's probably, you know, up there with the best in the league and in Europe. But he's, you know, it's always Gabriel that's doing the pointing, you know, calling the line, you know, going mad if people are out of position. You know, he's the glue in that defence. So you might have an Hincapie in there, you might have a Mosquera, but you've got to take advantage of the fact that there might not be someone that's used to leading the line. Saliba would probably be the one to do it, but is he? Not sure. You know, Calafiori goes in, composure, superb as a defender, but he can be, out of all the centre-halves that they got, I think he's the one that could be bullied, and that would have to result in Richarlison just, you know, being the rat that he is. I need Richarlison to be a rat tomorrow. I don't need this Richarlison that's just walking around the pitch feeling sorry for himself because he got tripped up. I need that rat that's diving all over the place, getting in Calafiori's ear or whoever it is, just winding it up because it's a North London derby. I don't need no wimps. You know, mentality-wise, if you're going to be like that, you might as well let me play because I might not have your ability, but I will get in people's heads. I know I would. On the pitch, like, I can't stand Arsenal. I respect them, but I can't stand them. So, you know, when I'm looking at Tottenham now, I believe that, you know, we're going to go there. We're probably going to be very pragmatic. We've done that. That's why we've got the best away record. Granted, that's the same reason why we've probably got the worst home record. You know, we need to kind of start taking it to teams. Now, when you look at when we played Man City, when we played PSG, you know, we got results against two of the best sides in Europe because even though we had that sense of pragmatism, we still pressed from time to time, you know. So there was times where we had that solid base, but Pap Sarr was running around like a madman, pressing PSG, pressing Vitinha, pressing Man City in the game. where they had their midfielders as well. And it worked because, Man City were pressed. James Trafford made a couple of mistakes. We win the game. Now, Raya is one of the best keepers in the league, bar none, and he's got one of the best defences. But I look at Arsenal, and I've watched a few of their games this season, and granted, they deserve respect because they're top of the league and they've been title challenging for the last 3 or 4 years. However, that means if you allow them to pass the ball around and do whatever they want, you're not going to win the game. Now, it's a North London derby. You want the bragging rights of that part of the city. I believe that if we want to beat Arsenal, we've got to do that pressing and aim to get that first goal. Now, if we get the first goal and we're 1-0 up at half time, I don't mind if you slowly but surely settle into that pragmatism of sitting in 2 banks of 4 and hitting them on the counter, because then Arsenal are going to have all the impetus. The crowd could be moaning. You go at the other end, Kudus takes on his fullback, 2-0, game done. I haven't got a problem with that. But if we start off with pragmatism and Arsenal take the lead, it's going to be very difficult at Emirates to then go, now we're losing, let's press. Because then Arsenal will just do the same thing to us. And they're probably well better suited to do that. Because if they hit us on the counter-attack and you've got a Saka, Trossard, Martinelli, all these characters, they could do the same thing to us. And I think that's what they're going to do. I think I've looked at my team. I watched Tottenham very analytically. And if I was a manager playing against Tottenham, it'd be simple. Because we play with our keeper at the back. If you press the back 4, it gets to the point one of our fullbacks ends up just booting it up to Richarlison or Kyle Muani. You win that header and win the second ball, you've got Tottenham pinned in, and we're not going to play the football through the midfield. We're not going to play it through the lines to get out. The only people that are capable of doing that is Xavi Simons, who's off form, and Maddison Kulusevski, all injured. So we haven't really got that player that's going to play it through the lines. So we end up playing it direct. But then again, that could work well for Tottenham, because if Richarlison starts winning some of those balls and we win the second balls with the Pape Sarr pressing up, that's how we got the success against Man City. That's how we got the success in the draw against PSG. And that's how we've done it in the away games a lot of the time. But, it'd be very dangerous to sit off Arsenal because, if you're just sitting there and allowing Saka to get the ball, take on whoever's at left back, whether it be a Doggy or Jed Spence, it's just going to be a long day because he's going to be crossing them into a Moreno or Gyökeres, and at some point they'll get the joy. And if they're not getting the joy, they start getting a bag of corners where we know that, they're the best in the league. But it's we could sit here and talk about the ifs, buts and whens all day. I'll talk about this and I know this will happen. It'll get to the point where someone will get sent off, there'll be 10 minutes extra time, 3-3. It'd just be like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. And that's why I love the North London derby, because, you look at Man United, Liverpool, a lot of the time you can always predict what's going to happen. Man United are going to get whooped, or Liverpool are going to go to Old Trafford and draw back in the day when they had the Gerrards and the Dirk Coutts and Torres and all that. Do you know what I mean? So this game, you don't know what could happen. We're dealing with the fact that Arsenal got the best home record and Tottenham got the best away. So statistically wise, you'd look at it and think it's going to be a draw. But we all know that Arsenal are going to set up the way they do. It's just a case of is Gyökeres going to start or not? We all know Eze's going to score. Let's just be real. I was going to put him in my dream team, but I couldn't afford to. I'd have put him as triple captain this week. He's definitely going to score. So we all know that Arsenal are going to set up in a way like that. Trossard probably be on the left. The midfield three's been pretty much the same for the last few weeks with Eze, Zubimendi and Rice. And the back 4, we don't know if it's going to be Mosquera or Hincapie, but the only way you're going to beat Arsenal is if they feel that they're going to have all the possession. You put a Pape Sarr on Zubimendi, you get a Paulinho on Declan Rice, and then you get a Bentancur tracking Eze. Just, for me, man for man in midfield, and just say to Arsenal, if you want to play it down the flanks, do that. And then for me, if you've got Jed Spence at the right back and a Doggy left back, which I hope to see, but I think Pedro Porro will play, then it gets to the point, I don't mind Arsenal's wingers having the ball against Jed Spence and the Doggy, because I think they could match up against most wingers in the Premier League. Whereas a Pedro Porro, going forward, I like him. Going backwards, though, if you've got a Martinelli or a Trossard, they'll just pin him back and it'll cause problems. So, when I look at my lineup, I just want 3 dogs in midfield: Sarr, Bentancur, Paulinho, Kudos on the right. Richarlison's going to have to be up front. Colin Moani, I don't think he's going to be starting with a mask on his head. And then left wing, probably an Odegaard, but it'll probably be Brendan Johnson, who I don't really want to start, but he's the sort of person that'll go and score the first goal for us. So left wing's up to you. Xavi Simons might be out there as well. I just don't want to see Xavi Simons through the middle. Don't want to see that. I need 3 dogs in midfield and put Xavi Simons in the middle. Should we be chasing the game? You know, I don't feel that we're up to standard to go to Arsenal and take them on toe for toe, because we don't really play that good football, and we're better off playing on the counter attack where we press in moments. And as long as we press out Arsenal's midfield and play the right wing backs, as in Spence and Udogie, I think we've got a good chance there. So yeah, it's all line-up dependent. But before I go, I feel that there's 2 results that I feel. So like I always do with my predictions, I always go with my head and my heart. So my head tells me we ain't won at the Emirates for 15 years. I mean, the last time we won there, I wasn't even watching it. I was playing Sunday League, checking my phone. All my Arsenal family and friends are popping off. It's 1-0, it's 2-0. So I go into a quarter-final of a football match knowing that Arsenal were 2-0 down. When my quarter-final was done and I asked the lino, what was the score? And he tells me 3-2 Tottenham. I was going mad, but the only option I had was to watch it on Match of the Day. So when it comes to winning at the Emirates, we won in the League Cup with Dele Alli and Harry Kane a few years ago. But before that, I don't even think it's happened. So my head tells me history is going to repeat itself. Arsenal are solid defensively. We haven't got much bite up front. 2-0 Arsenal. Just keep it sweet. Not that, they're going to be a 2-0 Arsenal. Everyone's having a field day. But my heart tells me, I just got a feeling it's going to be a bonkers game. And Tottenham might come out of it 3-2. I just think we might end up getting the first goal. If we get the first goal, that will set the tone. It gives us a chance, because we don't score the first goal. I think it's a long day for us. So my head tells me 2-0. My heart tells me 3-2. But we'll see. I hope everyone has a blessed weekend. And yeah, I'll tune in tomorrow after the game, and I'm either going to be smiling like a Cheshire cat, or I'm going to have my hood up with a cigar in my nose. Who knows? Love, Jacob on the one up top.